Hello YouTube. Today we have this Honor laptop that has been sent in for USB-C port issues. Now it kind of looks exactly like a Huawei, and we see USB-C port issues on those all the time, so I expect this will be the same. We may find some broken traces, stuff like that. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the board, take a look at the ports and see what we find. Ooh, that doesn't look good. What's going on? I think someone's had a look at this before. Yeah, all that plastic is mounted. Wait, there's no port in it. Oh my god. There is no USB-C port at all. And is that the same at the top as well? Bro, where'd the USB-C port go? What happened? Did someone just remove them? Oh, well, I think I know what's wrong with this. So, get this thing taken apart. See how bad the PCB is in this area, because I've never been sent a laptop with missing ports before. This is going to be interesting. Oh, the battery screws are missing as well. Good. That's helpful. At least it's easy to take apart. And just like the Huawei's, this is missing most of its pads. Oh, they're all mashed up there. So this is going to need a lot of trace repairs. Yeah, I think it's only got one left in the middle. Good fun. And this one has all the pads, but I don't think this is the charge port. I think this does data only, and maybe external display. So I don't know why they've removed this one. So the same type of port? Yeah, it's the same type of port. Okay, I'm going to remove this stickering a little bit, just so I've got better access to it. And I guess we start working on the charge port first and see if that gets the device powering on again. Hopefully I've got this port in stock. I think I should do. Put that back on later. Now, if you've ever seen anyone fix these Huawei's with the broken traces, what you got to do is demask some traces, and then we can solder jumper wires to them. get the rest of these traces scratched up using this knife. Then we can put the port on. There, good as new. So, why do all these Huawei ports fail? It's because of the port itself. See that plastic bit moving? This is a brand new port. See how that moves? So, these two little bent bits of metal here are meant to hold this plastic body in place. And it's not very good. It's just not a good port. So what tends to happen is when you plug the charger in, this moves, it puts pressure on all these pads, and the pads start to fail. The pads fail before the port usually, and it's just a bad design. It's not fit for purpose. So I'm going to show you how we're going to reinforce all this to try and prevent this plastic moving, and that should lead to a long-lasting repair that hopefully won't come back for any warranty work. So yeah, first you get the port in, you solder the anchors down, and should we solder the remaining pins? Yeah, let's put some solder on the pins. I'm also going to try and tin the top of each pin, because I don't want to solder up again. I don't want to solder my jumper wires against the edge of the pin. I want to solder right over the top, just so they've got the strongest bond strength. So let's tin this port up a little bit and solder any traces that are still savable. And these corner pins just won't take. Okay, now we're gonna put quite a lot of UV cure around the port before we've soldered it. So right now the solder is the only thing preventing that plastic body we saw moving earlier so it's quite solid now. But we're going to try and prevent it moving as much as we can. Let's get the UV cure. And we're going to go around these metal brackets just between the plastic and the metal outer part of the port. And I'm also going to go across all the pins, which means we're going to have to scrape some of this off so we can solder to it, but we really need to go kind of wild with this UV cure. I have had when I first started doing these Huawei ports, I did have a couple of returns, because eventually the same thing's going to happen, except instead of breaking a pad, it will break a wire. So that's probably too much, but better too much than too little. Which means we're going to have to scrape it back a little bit more. Now let's cure that with some UV light. Just get the blade back out and start scraping for the second time. good. So I'm going to strip some enameled 0.1mm wire, and then we could start running jumpers. The first couple of pins on either side of this port are ground, so they have a bit more thermal mass than the rest. I'm not looking for absolute perfect joints at this stage. We just need to get the wires in place, tacked on, and come back with a bit of solder paste and a heat gun later if we need to get better joints. Okay, so the cables are on, but I'm not really happy with how some of them are looking. If I touch some of them, I think some of them will be loose a little bit. That one's a little loose. This one's, yeah, that needs to be reshaped a little bit. So just a couple aren't soldered to the board. That one's not soldered to the pin. But that's no problem. So part of the reason some of that will be is thermal mass, and the other part is just using a tip that's a bit too big for the area. So the way I'm going to deal with that is I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean. I'm going to drop the temperature and the airflow on my heat gun, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of solder paste and put it in areas that I think could do with a bit of improvement. So just spread that about there. And we're missing some on that pin there. And then just give it a little bit of heat from the heat gun. As it gets to melting temperature, we're sort of going to use our tweezers to push the balls of solder paste to where they need to be. Oh, I've just picked up that one there. Anyway, I'm going to go back over these joints, make sure I'm happy with them all. Just add a bit of solder paste to the ones that I worry about, especially that one. And then we can test it. Whoa, that's way too much. Doesn't matter though. There we go. So all the joints are nicely made up. At this stage I'm going to quickly just plug it in and make sure it boosts to 20 volts from the charger. So let's turn the bench supply on. And we have 20 volts. Let's flip it around the other way, make sure it works both ways around. And 20 volts that way around as well. So that's good. That port is now working. Before I move on to the other port, I'm just going to finish reinforcing this one. So now all the wires are in place. Just going to run a bit more UV cure just to cover all those up and support the back part of the port, the plastic part. So hopefully that should make a good enough bond that this port is going to be physically stable and shouldn't fail again in the future like all the other ones do. Okay, that'll do. Now, why anyone would have removed this port, I have no idea. It's not the charge port. This is just for USB data. So maybe they used it to try and, I don't know, take this port and use it in the location of the charge port. Who knows, but all I know is it wasn't present when I got the device. And it's covered in glue because they didn't take off the sticker before they started heating things up. So let's clean it up. There we go. Oh no. Well, that's not very helpful. This port is a different size. I don't know if I'm going to have one of these. Single row. I don't think I'm going to have a single row USB C port that's going to fit this. You have to tell them that they have no port. Yeah, this one has 2 extra pins as well. Can't even bend those prongs down to make it fit. It's just too big. I'm going to check in my port box. Why would they remove that? That's so frustrating. Yeah, I have nothing remotely similar to this port. Now the problem is, if you try and buy a USB-C port for this laptop, you will get this port every time. Not this one. So finding a suitable replacement for this port is going to be near impossible, I think. There aren't that many ports that are single row. Usually you have a second row or some through-hole pins. So they just may have to live without that port. I don't know what to do here. Maybe if I got a donor board, I could take the port off that. But I don't have any donors for these, so this person's just not going to have a port there. Unless I can find one. If I can find one, I'll follow up. But for now, I'm just going to put it back together and show you that it works. That's why the speaker wasn't plugged in. There's a bent pin inside that connector, so that's not going in. Well, we can revisit that in a minute. We can repaste that later when I've decided what to do about this missing port. Let's see. Drawing 100 milliamps from the charger. And there we go. So I couldn't source a USB C port for this one in the end, but I did speak to the customer and they're happy to have it back without that port. It's kind of a shame because if the other technician hadn't removed that port, we wouldn't be in this mess. But, you know, it just goes to show you've got to be careful who you send these devices to for repair. Anyway, customer's happy. The system works. So we're going to call it a win. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.